Let's talk about Atlantis and other failed ascensions, because that's why the Atlantean memory lives inside of us so strongly. We know we've got something to heal in order for us to move forward. It's almost like we've done this once before. The truth is, we've done this multiple times before. We've attempted ascension and failed. And you know what you do when you fail, right? There's a very small percentage of people that are going to go, yay, I failed. Now I can learn. Now I can grow. Now I can evolve. Now I can do things differently. The majority of people are brainwashed into a mindlessness that says, I failed. And therefore, I'm not going to admit that I failed because it will make me wrong and I will feel ashamed and I will need to bury the shame. So I just won't admit that it ever happened. I'll live in denial. But something will always be nagging at me and tugging at me and I won't know what it is and I'll feel really anxious and I'll feel the sense of doom, but I won't really address where it comes from. That's what most human beings will do with what's occurred. So let's talk about it because it's coming up to heal right now. Earlier today, I was having a swim. Oh God, you guys, I love the water. I love swimming. I love the ocean. I love bathing. I love just being in water. And there's a reason why. There's something so amazing about Atlantis being under the water that we've never really addressed before. And that is water holds consciousness. Water holds the consciousness and the memory and the legacy of the ones who've gone before us. And they were a really advanced group of beings. They just fell at the last minute. We're going to talk about that in today's conversation. It would really benefit us if we started to accept that the water holds more than we've ever seen, than we've ever allowed ourselves to see. You could drink a glass of water because all water on the planet is connected. Be in the ocean, be in your bath, be drinking water, be interacting with water in any way. And you can, if you'll allow yourself, begin to connect with the lost legacy of the ones who came before you, the ones who have so much to teach you, the ones who came so close. But through their example, we've got a memory of how not to do things just there in that final little moment. We cannot discredit them and say, well, they had nothing to offer us. They have so much wisdom, and many of us are reincarnations of the Atlanteans trying to do it better this time. The seas that hold the Atlantean story, the Atlantean crystals, because there were many, the Atlantean divinity, because it was vast and powerful, and they had many high priests and high priestesses upon that very sacred land that had so much to offer, so much to share, so much wisdom to impart, that all lies within the ocean. And it's starting to bubble up to the surface. It's starting to speak to us now. Water is the most exquisite carrier of energy. In fact, in the higher realms, so when we're looking at like a 4D realm or a 5D realm, 6D realm, 7D realm in particular, by the way, there's a feeling of liquid crystalline air. And it's not a dry air. It's not like the air that we breathe here in the third dimension. See, I didn't say here on Earth, I said here in the third dimension, because Earth is multidimensional. That means that at higher dimensions, we experience Earth entirely differently, that it may as well be a new planet. Nonetheless, liquid crystalline, it's like water, but it's not wet. Can you imagine that? So it's got the viscosity of water, so you can almost feel like you're swimming. And now you wonder why you've had all of those dreams, you know, where you can fly. And for a lot of people, I was one of them. I remember as a kid, I would always have flying dreams, but I would fly kind of weird. Instead of this, so let me know in the comments, did you have flying dreams? Instead of flying, like flapping my wings, or my husband tells me he had flying dreams where he just beamed himself. There was no body movements even. No, my body movements in my flying dreams, I was doing breaststroke, baby. I was doing breaststroke through my lounge. I was swimming through the air and flying. But that's not really a dream. That's an experience of a higher dimensional frequency. You see, we've been there. We've been to every rung of existence, the highest and the lowest. But right now, we have the sense of fear of failure, and we have to clear this in order to ascend. And guess what it's doing? It's coming up now. It's coming up now to clear. And isn't that cool? And isn't that exciting? Because if we were not close to ascension, this wouldn't be surfacing. Now, please, please, please don't misquote me. Don't go around saying, oh, Kerry says tomorrow we're going to ascend, because I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is it's evident that the ascension point is getting closer and closer. But let's talk about Atlantis. Why was that? What happened? That was a failed ascension attempt. And let's talk about others as well, because there have been many failed ascension attempts. See, the last successful ascension attempt that happened on this planet was not a planet-wide ascension attempt. It was the Mayans. The Mayans were a group of people who evolved themselves to the point of being able to ascend. And by the way, the history that we're taught about the Mayans is not entirely accurate. I remember learning about the Mayans and going, God, they're quite a bloodthirsty bunch. That was put in place in order for us to discredit the possibility and not even entertain the possibility that we had a highly evolved race of beings. So we have ancestry that happened here on planet Earth that did it, that made the ascension point. It wasn't a planet-wide, it was just a small group of beings. And when that happens, when it's not an entire planet ascending, then the planet remains to host the rest of the life upon the planet. The planet remains in its lower expression so that everybody else can play out their journey. Of course, simultaneously, the planet still exists in the higher dimensions, but that lower dimensional expression was never evaporated into or alchemized into the higher expressions as it's going to be in our upcoming ascension. So the Mayan ascension was the last successful ascension, but it was only a group of people that ascended. The rest of the planet did not. And then, of course, we've had many other destructions. The wound of planet-wide destruction or of mass cataclysm, and that's why it's so easy for us to believe, oh my God, the planet's going to die, the planet's going to implode, the planet's not going to make it. This planet is millions of years old, billions of years old, it's going to make it. It's the human beings on the surface that we really need to look at. But the wound tells us that mass cataclysm could happen any day now. And so it puts us in a fear response, which is exactly where those who want the control of your consciousness want you to be, because you can't think clearly in fear and you can't raise your frequency in fear. TIAMUT was a planet destruction. LYRA was a planetary, multiple planets were destroyed in the Lyrian War. Some of them became inhospitable to life and others were actually blown up. These were violent attacks that exist somewhere in our distant memory. We know that this stuff has happened. The asteroid belt, that's the remnants of a planet called TIAMUT. And we've been through so many losses before. Mu was an ancient civilization. Lemuria on this planet. Lemuria, Atlantis. These were ancient civilizations that came there to the ascension point, and then everything fell flat. Why did it all fall flat? See, I'm busy doing the Galactic History series. What you're watching today is going to be part of the Galactic History series. It's going to be a playlist on my YouTube channel. So just go type in Galactic History Kerry K. You'll find the playlist. The collective trauma that we have borne and carried around with us about Atlantis stems from not just one thing. It's giving our power away, and it's having technology on the planet that consciousness can't keep up with, and not questioning leadership for a very important reason. It's part of the giving our power away. See, the human species, what we've done is we've opted into a helplessness, which is why so many people opt into self-pity and into victimhood. And they go, what can I do? All the forces are against me. I'm just a lowly old human. They discredit their power and then they assign their power to somebody else. I've said this so many times, but I feel like I need to always say it in every video. Just until maybe one day it comes home, just until maybe one day this really becomes a penny that drops for you, and that is darkness has no power of its own. It only has the power that we assign to it, that we give it. So the irony of us going, oh, the dark powers, oh, the dark forces, what they're empowered with is the power of light that's been turned against us because we didn't want to take personal responsibility, because we didn't want to be wrong, because we thought it was easier to have somebody else lead us. That was the fatal mistake. In Atlantis, and I kind of laugh when I say this, imagine that somebody knocked on the door and said to the Atlantean people, hi guys, we're here to take you over. That wouldn't bode really well. They'd go, no, thank you very much. But the ones who came to corrupt the political system, because although Atlantis didn't have a political system like we do here, there were councils that organized and ran the operations of Atlantis. Those councils were the equivalent, although a more elevated version of our political system, but nonetheless the equivalent thereof. There were beings that went to those elders and those council leaders and said, look, you guys are headed right there for doom, but lucky for you, we've come to save you. So there were people who posed as the saviors. In the recent call that I did for the Plasma Light Tribe, that was call 161, I spoke about the Savior program. It's a program of the false matrix. And so I want you to understand that when I talk about a program of the false matrix, it's an energetic frequency that disturbs the DNA. And it imprints that disturbance or that distortion so that we start repeating the disturbance within ourselves. And that is, it's going to show up in one of two ways, either in longing for a savior, which is where so many humans are. So many humans are like, some political leader's got to take responsibility for this. Somebody else has got to take responsibility for that. That savior syndrome. And we see it in romantic relationships where, especially for women, we're taught we have to have a knight in shining armor or some kind of a savior. But then there's also those who have savior syndrome in the opposite sense, where they want to save others and they don't feel worthy. Unless they do, there's a lot of the wounded healer archetype entangled with that desire to save others. The wounded healer is the one who will want to do that. Of course, you know the answer is you have to save yourself. That's the remedy. That's how we break out of that distortion. When Atlantis was taken over, that savior syndrome, that corruption of the human consciousness was deeply planted into the human populace, and it just became a very reverberant echo. In fact, at the fall of Atlantis, that became a marking point instead of a marker for ascension, because that's what the people were doing, and they knew it. They knew that they were coming to an ascension point, kind of like we do right now. And that's when those leaders came in and said, don't worry, we're here to save you. Oh, without us, you probably wouldn't have ascended, but we're going to come and fix everything. This is why humanity is so blindly led. I see people in my comment section every day. They say, Kerry, you said this, but perhaps another spiritual leader said that, or somebody else said this, because they're so busy listening to what is everybody saying instead of, what am I saying? What am I feeling? And that's my work. In the Plasma Light Tribe, that's my teaching space. It's all about the most critical thing that you can possibly ever do in this world, in this ascension cycle, and that is start listening to your own inner wisdom, start tuning into that. But that's a huge task when what we've got are these distortions on the surface. We're basically going to be listening to the illusory self, which is going to lead us astray. So as much as I'm saying listen to yourself, it is a very masterful thing in a false paradigm such as the one that we've lived in to begin the process of listening to yourself. But that's okay. You're here to do that. We all are. The reverberant shock of the fall of Atlantis was so big. And what happened there was technology upon the planet, very advanced technology just like ours, but more of a galactic technology, a technology that would enable people, instead of smartphone to smartphone, communicating from Timbuktu to wherever you are in the world. This was a technology that could communicate planet to planet, star system to star systems. So it was a very, very advanced technology. But the consciousness of the people of Atlantis wasn't ready for that. And because the consciousness couldn't meet and match the technology and the technological output, what did the humans do? The humans didn't say, which is what we are coming to hopefully learn, the humans didn't say, well, I better up my game. I have to raise my frequency. Otherwise, I'm going to land up being the servant. And I don't want to be the servant to an artificial master. So in the Atlantean era, the reason that technology came in, this was part of what the dark ones who set up the false matrix in the first place, these are beings called archons. The archons themselves are very invested in technology. And by the way, the reptilians and many of the species aligned with the control of others, which is a very dark agenda, they love artificial intelligence because they feel it gives them a power. And there's a problem. The moment you're powerful because of something outside of yourself, you're enslaved. You're not powerful. And that's almost the blind spot of all of these dark ones. They themselves became enslaved to AI, thinking that they were benefiting, thinking that they were so smart because now they had this ally. AI was never their ally. It posed that way, but it was in fact something that had outsmarted them. That's another story to unravel for another day. But when technology arrives, and it arrives through the dark ones, it arrives with a dark agenda. Are there technologies in, say, fifth dimensional planets where we have a harmonious planet outside of the false matrix? Is there a technology that is perhaps beneficial and harmonious? Yes, absolutely. That is not the technology that we have on the planet right now, though. The technology we have on the planet right now is a very advanced AI system that is gradually, day by day, imprinting itself into the cerebral function of the human being in an attempt to overtake that, in an attempt to replace that. So at the Atlantean time, it was exactly the same thing. And the Atlanteans were so quick to say, oh, aren't we blessed to have this incredible force that makes our lives easier? Everything for them was, look at how easy our lives are becoming. Wow, we've got all this technology, we've got all this leadership, everything is being made so much better for us. So they took their hands off the wheel of their own fate. They stopped driving, they stopped leading themselves. That was the fall of Atlantis, which became a fall of frequency. It's why it echoes and lives inside of us. This has happened on the planet so many times. Eden is another time of a tremendously powerful fall of humanity. And by the way, the false matrix was established long before Atlantis, but it was very much in pockets on this planet. It wasn't a planet-wide thing. It became a deeply embedded planet-wide thing. I want you to imagine this with me. Atlantis falls, and I want you to imagine that the archons, which are the architects of the false matrix, I want you to imagine that they put like a stake in the ground, as if to say, I own this place now, because that's what the fall of Atlantis marked for them. But they put this etheric rod into the earth, and as they do that, they embed it deep into the core of the earth. And they stop the earth's natural flow. They stop the earth's natural rhythm. And the earth goes out of phase, out of harmony with its own nature. The very same thing is then imprinted into the human populace. Because what's going to happen is the ones on the surface, the human populace, in other words, will begin to mimic the planetary symphony, the planetary signature energy. We absorb that and mimic that. So when the planet itself goes out of alignment, there's a reason why our axis is tilted. That is to not just to represent the fact that we are skew, but really to kind of hold that distortion in place, the imbalance in place. Now, this ascension cycle that we're coming to is an opportunity to correct that, to remove that iron rod, so to speak. And we began that with rods of light. There's a video that I put up some time back about these. It was really a remarkable, it still is, just the most remarkable thing that every light worker on the planet began through their frequency that they started to emanate. They began to become an anchor point for an etheric rod of light. So almost like an acupuncture needle, but like multiple acupuncture needles in the planet that was reinvigorating the planet and correcting that distortion of Atlantis. We're still in the process of that right now. The memory of the failure of Atlantis is something that we need to get over. And the way to get over it is to see it, is to see where we went wrong. Wow, look at what happens when we give power away. Look at what happens when we step into willful ignorance. Look at what happens when we let other people lead. We become enslaved. Look at what happens when we validate their leadership and we say, oh, well, what can I do? I see people in my comment section say things like this to me pretty much daily. And they don't realize that they are creating the false matrix and they are reinforcing the false matrix when they say things like this. And that is, but what am I supposed to do? The darkness is so big. The only time we'll say that is because we haven't taken the time to truly step into our light, to explore, to be willing even to explore the depth of our own light. The online community, the Plasma Light Tribe, is exactly that safe sanctuary space that I created for people to come into a deep learning environment, to step into these energetic frequencies. It's a very intimate connection with your own soul, with your own divinity. That's what trusting your light is about. The fall of Atlantis, the fear of it lives inside of us, but you're about to rewrite the story. But you've got to allow yourself now to see beyond the fall of Atlantis. It's almost like we were so busy ignoring the fall of Atlantis that we never looked beyond that to see the potential of the triumph that sits in front of us right now, because the potential of the triumph that sits in front of us right now is remarkable. It's spectacular. It's a planet-wide system of harmony. It's the return to the natural universe. It is the absolving and the dissolving of darkness. Finally, freeing the planet from the clutches of the false matrix and the false masters of the false matrix and all of their deceptions and all of their manipulations, so that each human being on planet Earth can be sovereign. We're about to see something so remarkable, but now's the time to lift your gaze. See, when we look back into our trigger wounds, we're going to see all of the destructions, all of the destruction events. Yeah, we've got that Mayan ascension. That seems almost like a little blip on the map, almost like that's almost such a small little event, except it's massive. The Mayan ascension is a memory. See how clever it was to wipe that out, to not even get people to look there to see what were the Mayans doing, to imprint in our minds, in our so-called historical facts and data, this understanding of a nation of barbarians, essentially, which they absolutely weren't. They were a very, very advanced, benevolent, loving, peaceful group of beings. They're calling us. They're helping us get to the finish line along with so many star beings. We're so supported. But to reach that support, we've got to stop resisting this fear of failure, see beyond it. And that's where that beauty lies, the love lies, the freedom of all of the shackles of the failures of the past lie. We came here because we knew this time this is going to be the mother of all ascensions, and we were just so excited to participate in this final triumph. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're on the brink of. This is not a couple of people on the planet ascending. This is the entire planet collapsing the false matrix, restoring the divine Eden, the pristine Eden that belongs here on planet Earth. From my heart, all the way into yours. I do hope that you take the time, just a little moment, to let it in and feel it. And any time that you let love in, you let healing happen. And I wish that upon you. And I wish that upon all that you meet and all that you see. Speak to you really soon. Go ahead and watch the rest of the Galactic History series, by the way. There's some pretty cool videos that you might have missed. I'll leave the playlist linked just up there. Bye-bye for now.